the customer experience, how you communicate, how you operate as a group, and what you bring to the forefront is important, whether you're doing a 4-figure offer or you're doing a multiple 6-figure offer. When you work with a client, you should always be thinking about what is that next step. And it's not necessarily, well, how can I get more money out of them? To me, that's like a greedy mindset. That's not a servant mindset. So it's how can you better serve them? What is that next level of service that you can provide to them? But why are y'all so scared to talk to clients? Like, why are you scared to communicate what's going on? Like, you'd be surprised how much grace can be extended when you openly communicate what's going on. Welcome back, Bold Move Besties. We are here with another episode of She Built Success. I am your host, Claudia. Go ahead, sit back, push play. Let's get on into it. So today we are talking about client and customer experience. And I feel this is a needed conversation because I feel like in doing business, we as small business owners, founders, need to have a solid client/customer experience in place. Now, the reason why I'm saying slash is because to me, clients are in the service industry, whereas customers are in the product industry. So if you hear me use client or customer interchangeably, just know that to me, customers is products and clients is service. But the underpinning of all this is about the experience that will not change. So I have 3 levels that I look at customer experience, and I feel like this needs to be talked about because I've seen it where in business things fall through the cracks. And the fault, I won't blame fault. I won't say fault just yet. Let's talk about the experience. The 3 areas are when you're at a certain dollar threshold. So if your particular offer or your particular package is, let's say, 4 figures, then there's going to be a type of experience I feel like you should have. If your particular offer is 5 figures, then that's going to be the second tier. If your offer is multiple 5 figures going up into 6 figures, then to me, that is the 3rd tier. Okay. So tier 1, we said it's about 4 figures. Tier 2, we're looking at 5 figures. And tier 3, we're looking at 5 to 6 figure type offers or products. Okay. If you are in tier 1, so going forward, I'm going to refer to these as tiers. If your offer falls within tier 1, then off the break, I believe you should be considering your deliverables and your timeline with your client. That is something you should be communicating. These are the deliverables. This is the timeline. If you are in tier 2, you're going to add on milestones. So typically, to me, the packages or offers or services that elicit that not only delivery and timeline, but also the milestones are those longer term projects. So let's say if your project is 3 months, then there should be milestones in that. And the client should be communicated to, hey, these are the milestones, these are the expectations up front when you're onboarding or even in your pre-onboarding call. Because what ends up happening is when you're investing in a service or a product at that level, there is a tendency to under-communicate. And I know I'm the type of person, I'm gonna say, okay, if I feel like something's slipping, if I'm working with another vendor and I wanna know, what's going on with something, but I'm not getting the type of communication or I don't understand the milestones, that for me, it doesn't work. And so it's important to think about when you're moving into especially like 6-figure type services. Not only are you going to have your deliverables, not only are you communicating your timeline and you have your milestones, but now you're looking at gates. And gates to me are the big culminations of parts of the entire project. And gates are also things that allow you to be able to go from a 3 to 6 month project to a year plus. It really depends on, you have to think about the types of services and products you offer and what your package windows look like. The more larger long term typically looks into the corporate space when we talk about small businesses working with corporate. It's like a B2B type situation. Small businesses, for the most part, I mean, I think a year would be where you would fall. But having those entry points and exit points and lines of communication is critical. And I'm saying that because otherwise you're leaving the experience or the client with a bad taste in their mouth with the experience or lack thereof. So let me give you a real-time example. And I'm going to use tier 2, which is the roughly 5 figures as far as an offer. You go in, you have your discovery call. On our end, we make sure that our client has a timeline and says, these are the areas that we're going to be focusing on or that we're delivering to for your particular project. And within those, we have some expectations of you, meaning we have some dependencies on you signing off on things on time. Like that's out of our control, but we're communicating that up front. And so they get a project plan that has start and end dates. And yes, that's calling into my project management side, but we have a project plan that has their start and end dates, and they get to see that. They get to see what their milestones are. They get to see the deliverables that we're providing and the dates that we're going to give it to them. And then they also get to see the timeline towards the deliverables that we need them to respond to. So it's multifolded there, but then the other element that we add in is our resources. So we resource load, meaning we people load the project. So if I have a graphic designer and I have a copywriter on one project, then I make sure that they go in so that for me as I'm looking at our project load, our workload, our resource utilization, I'm able to say, okay, this resource is strapped. They're working 3 projects right now. I cannot put them on any more projects. Who else can I call upon on the team to work on said project? Being able to not only have that resource utilization of people on your team, but being able to communicate back to the client, hey, this is what the timeline looks like. These are what our deliverables are going to be, and these are our expectation, allows for a sense of ease as far as what that experience looks like. You're being forthcoming with how you're going to be running the project. You're being clear in the deliverables that are being performed or going to be performed, and you're also setting those milestone markers. I think when we get into projects that span 3 to 6 months, and I've done those in the past, especially with small businesses, I've been very cognizant to communicate. If there's been a delay, whether it's on my team, I am more proactive than reactive to say if there's something that I know is going on, to communicate to the client as such. That's very rare in the sense that because I do resource utilization, it doesn't really happen so often, but it has happened. And I'm thinking of a particular project, a 3-month web project, and we were doing 2 website builds for one client simultaneously. So not only were we resource strapped, but it was there was a lot of decision points that had to be made with aesthetics and copy and images and all that fun stuff. And so we were able to prioritize with the client. Instead of delivering them both at the same time, we updated the schedule to say, okay, based on knowing that we need feedback from you, client, let's make this website the priority, and then we'll follow on with the second website as the next one. And so that worked out. Now, I'm saying that because we communicated up front. We had initially discussed the timeline. They both were going to be delivered at the same time. That didn't happen, or we were recognizing as we got into the project, the holdup was, getting client feedback and being able to, quickly turn around the feedback that was being provided. And so when we sat down and said, okay, because we would have touch point calls. That's another thing. Oh my gosh, why are we so scared to talk to, I'm not gonna say I'm not scared, but why are y'all so scared to talk to clients? Like, why are you scared to communicate what's going on? Like, you'd be surprised how much grace can be extended. Now, don't be sloppy with things, that's trifling, but how much grace can be extended when you openly communicate what's going on. Hey, my graphic designer is out for a couple weeks, they had an event happen or something like that. I mean, you may not have to tell all the details, but just being communicative will pay dividends and being able, and for the client to be able to still be comfortable with the timeline. But you just have to be communicative. So, we were careful and we made sure to communicate what was happening with our clients, to make sure that they understood what was happening timeline wise, but also in deliverables and what that looked like. And we would set up these meetings to say, okay, this is where we are in this particular milestone. How are you feeling? Are we tracking to this? Now, I can remember taking on a conversion project. A conversion project for my scope of work for small biz was a data conversion. So they were going from one email platform into another. I will not name those platforms because they do not sponsor us just yet. So they were going from one email platform to another. And I can remember saying, the data was messy. There was a lot of merging that had to happen. And there were a lot of subscribers on their one list that we were trying to move into the new platform. And I know when we first scoped it out, we talked about subscribers. We talked about what that would look like. And I said, okay, bet this is the timeline, this is the schedule. When we got in there and we saw how much, we'll call it dirty data for simplistic terms, was in that system and what we would have to do to make it more streamlined and help with their automations in the back end for when they do email campaigns, it was a longer timeline. Now, obviously, that's not something the client wants to hear. The client wants to stick to whatever the dates were that we initially discussed. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And in this case, that was one of those times. We didn't know what we didn't know. We just knew a number count of subscribers. We didn't know how much of a spider web it was. But we communicated, right? We had the same touch point calls, a regular weekly, well, in this particular client's case, it was a bi-weekly call because we had a very fast timeline to turn this around. But the point being, we had those calls scheduled and we were able to have those conversations to say, hey, this is where we are. This is what we found, versus waiting until the deliverable was supposed to be done. And they're sitting there like, dude, where's my stuff? And you're like, oh, well, that's reactive. Okay. So be proactive about it. And I'm giving examples for me and my experiences within the company, but put yourself in that position. What does that look like? And when we talk about the upper 5 to 6 figure type products or services, that experience is like, it should be like butter. Yes, you got to work out the kinks and things as you move into that level, but it should be like butter. You should have deliverables. You have stuff automated out. Like I know for us, we do a lot of automation out to the client. It is, hey, this is where this deliverable is. They approve it. It's automated. It comes back to us. We send out the next, and it's very smooth. It's very much a well-oiled machine. I'm very proud of it. But having that in place, and I get it. You're probably like, well, Claudia, I'm not tech, and that's okay. We're tech. So you can come on over here, hit me up in the DMs. We can have that conversation. But having that system in place to be able to, I'm not even gonna say automate, but to be effortlessly flowing between projects, between deliverables, between different client calls is paramount when you're running at a scale of a 6-figure offer. When your stuff is duct tape and screws, there's a problem, and you need to not be doing that. You need to go hire an ops person or hire a tech consultant to help you. We do tech. So if you have questions on that front, or you're just like, maybe not me, let me know. Hit me up in the DMs. We can have that conversation. But I think that it's important to have those systems in place, because otherwise, like if you're working with the larger companies, you look like a mess. It's not a cute image. It's not something that you would want to keep going, and they may not even want to do business with you again, or they may sever their contract if it's a larger corporate company, because they have done that. Not to me, but I've heard horror stories about it, just because deliverables were missed and milestones were missed, and that's part of the contract. And if you don't live up on your end of the bargain, well, that's it. You're out. So I'm saying all this to say the customer experience, how you communicate, how you operate as a group, and what you bring to the forefront is important. It matters whether you're doing a 4-figure offer or you're doing a multiple 6-figure offer. It is important to make sure that you have that, I call, back end flow in place. And it's important that you make sure you have what you want to say to the client in place, whether that is good news or bad news, right? Because everything's not always, I keep saying rainbows and unicorns, but it's not all hunky-dory and happy, right? And so being able to have the processes and the workflows that cultivate a client experience that has them coming back is important. Now let's talk about the coming back part, because I think this is a giant missed opportunity, especially for small businesses. When you work with a client, you should always be thinking about what is that next step. And it's not necessarily, well, how can I get more money out of them? Because that's like to me, that's like a greedy mindset. That's not a servant mindset. So it's how can you better serve them? What is that next level of service that you can provide to them? So in our case, let's go with let me see one of our offers that we do. Let's go with our GovCon offer. So we have a done for you government contracting service, and what we do is we basically go in and operate as a sales and proposal team for small businesses to do business with the government. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is, okay, what's that next level that I could then offer if it's, after the done for you, and it's going into coaching. Haha, surprise. But it's like small group coaching where we hone in and we get your marketing message and we do social media and we teach you how to move forward with government to gain those government contracts, leveraging social media, leveraging your already past performance, whether it's in the small business or corporate industry. And to me, that only came about in just having conversations with others that are in the space, getting in the space, thinking about getting in the space and not knowing what to do. And so I was like, okay, bet, how can I better serve? What's that next level? For me, that's the next level because it's more than the done for you. Sometimes they want the one-on-one. You get ones that want to understand, what does it really look like behind the scenes? What all is involved? And they see what all is involved and they're like, yo, that's not my cup of tea. I don't have time for that. I'd rather focus on delivery. Bet, we got you. And so that small group coaching that I'm referring to right now is that next level. And so it's really just thinking about how can you elevate that service? What can you do to get them to come back or retain them? And then, of course, there's other elements that you could put in there for yourselves that would ascend them to that next level or keep them in a recurring cycle with you. So just remember that experience is like your front door, right? They talk about, the discovery call or, just having that initial call is important. Yes, it is. But then once you get them on board, it's how are you delivering your services and your products? What does that look like? Because it sucks especially if you're in the product or even I think about restaurants like on Yelp when they get like the ugly reviews. And yeah, you got disgruntled people sometimes, but when they get the ugly reviews, how can you make it so it's more of a positive light? And I'm actually going to give you a real-time example, not real-time, but a real example where I remember we had date night. We went out to this restaurant in our area, and first time, never went, always passed it, but never went to the restaurant. We went to this restaurant. It was like, what, we'll try it one day. Went to it and sat down. The drinks were amazing. Bourbon was like a smoked, what was it? A smoked old fashioned kind of type of a vibe. It was so good. I'm not a sweet drinker. I'm a bourbon drinker over here. So anyway, we had the bourbon, the smoked old fashions, and their appetizers. And this particular establishment is in the entertainment industry. Like they cater for like different concerts and whatnot, but they have an actual physical, regular people who can come in and have their food. Anyway, the experience was one where I was like, the food is good, the drinks are amazing, like the ambiance. It wasn't like a cave, but it wasn't like super bright. It was just right. That kind of level of I'm chill. I'm just gonna relax. And I remember at the end of the service, our waitress came and gave us an envelope, and I believe it was a red envelope because it was right. I don't remember if it was right around Valentine's Day or New Year's. Either way, it was like the beginning of this year. We did this restaurant, but the envelope was like you can't open it until after this. Or no, you can't open it until said date. So let's say if we went in January, let's say it was February, you can't open until February, and you can't open it until you come back to the restaurant. So you wouldn't know what was in what you got in the envelope. And while that might be small, but that's just one way the experience was amazing. I already said that. I remember the drinks, but the food was good too. But the envelope, I remember being like, okay, we gotta go back. I'm sorry, we didn't go back. Sorry, restaurant, we'll be back. But we didn't make it back. Just schedules were crazy that time. But it was just the point. Like I remember being like, dude, we missed out on going back. Like the date's done. But that envelope just cultivated that experience. It kept it top of mind. It made me say, okay, I know we're going to go back because I want to know what's in this envelope. I mean, it could be a couple dollars off a meal or it could be a free drink. I didn't know, but it's like, it has that curiosity. There's an experience there. So for a product, or in this case, a restaurant, like that was something I thought that was pretty cool. So think about that. How can you cultivate that experience if whether your service or product, and what that looks like on the receiving end? Does it build up the excitement? I mean, so much so, I know I'm my own business, own company, but I even leave feedback, or not feedback, what's it called? Reviews. Like when you can leave a review, not the Yelp one, but they had like, what's the one where you go, a Google type of a thing, and you can rate the thing of whatever stars. Like I left a comment, and And then I went on their IG and I reposted our drinks. I reposted our drinks on IG and tagged them and was like, awesome time. I don't know if it was the owner, whoever managed their social, ended up coming back and was like, thanks, we definitely want to have you back. I was like, dude, I'll be back. We're getting there. But it was like, I'll be back, no, for sure. And I talk about it a lot because it was just that good of an experience. So all that to say, the experience matters and how you respond to it matters. And for me, leaving reviews, leaving comments, DMing different establishments on IG, like I'll do that. But that's because I genuinely felt something. If there's nothing there, I'm not going to go out my way. I'm not going to go out my way, right? That's the truth of it. I'm not going to go out my way to talk about it. But when it's an experience that's memorable, I'm going to go out of my way myself, and I'm going to make sure that is a thing, and they're known that they're doing well. I got another one. I remember, sorry, y'all, it's coming back when we started talking food, because y'all know I like food. I'm a foodie. We did a restaurant, and this one was in Tennessee. It was a local restaurant in Tennessee, and we had the food was so good. I promise you. So much so, we were driving back home. Before we drove back home, I stopped. I went online to see if I can order like the to-go, and so we could drive back home and have it when we come back home. And I was like, that's weird. They don't have online ordering. That's kind of weird. We went through a whole pandemic. Y'all don't got online ordering. So I go there and they're like, oh, well, we don't do our food to go. So I'm like, what? And they didn't do it to go because of the way they prepare it, the freshness that's in it. They wanted you to have that experience at their restaurant. Now, they did me a solid and they let us pack some food up to go, or, order stuff to go, but they typically don't do it. But it was because of, for me, their experience of our first time there, and then the being able to take things to go, I went on IG, I reposted them, I told them it was great. I even DM'd their IG account, and I'm not gonna say the owner because I don't know if it was the owner, so I'll say the person who owned this, who was in charge of social, was appreciative of the repost, and also asked for a review on, I think it was either Google or Yelp, just to continue to get that message out. And it's local, so it's not like it's, like a big chain or anything. It was only 2 of them in that particular area in Tennessee. And I didn't have a problem doing it because, again, an experience. They went out of their way to do something they don't typically do, but then they also explained why they don't do it. And by virtue of having a sit down that day prior, I already I was like, bet I can understand where you're coming from. And I appreciate, you looking out for me and letting us take some food back. So, yeah, what's your experience? Is it memorable? Are you getting repeat clients, or are you doing a client in, client out, and that's it? It's a problem if that's all you're doing. If you're just churning through clients, that's a problem. That means you don't have and you haven't identified what that next level is. So think about your tiers, whether you're a 4-figure tier, 5 or 6-figure, and what the systems and the process workflows, that experience looks like from a client. And you know what? Here's my final thought on that, because I think this is also missing: client or customer feedback. There needs to be, you need to have a feedback loop, and that includes critiquing what you did and what that looks like so that you can do better, or you can keep doing what you're doing. That's great. Otherwise, you're not going to know. You're just going to be out here doing the same thing over and over again. So make sure you ask for that feedback. It could be a review. It could be a DM. It could be an email. I know for us, we send out emails to say, hey, we send out emails even after the discovery call to say, hey, what did you get out of this? How did it go? Is there anything we could do different? How can we continue to help or serve? And that's whether or not they become a client. So it's small things like that burns into their memory or into their brain. Oh, she's for real. Oh, they're reaching out again. Oh man. And it's not like oh my God, here she goes again. It's not that. It's definitely relatable, personable, and trying to serve. It's a servant's mindset. So think about your customer experience. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful. I know it was a lot of experiences that I've experienced within the company, but let me know if it was helpful. I'm curious. Leave me a comment below or hit me up in the DMs. Now, if you are not already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You guys get first dibs. You get to hear every Wednesday a new episode drop of She Built Success. Now, if you're on audio, don't worry, we got you too a little bit later, but go ahead and hit subscribe. You get a new episode every Friday. An episode will drop. You can hit subscribe and hear me in your ears. I'll catch you on the next episode of She Built Success. Bye. What's up, Bold Move besties? Guess what I'm offering? Government contract coaching for small businesses. It is your opportunity to get the real, the relevant, and the way to do government contracting correctly with the federal, local, and state government. Inside, you will get details on how to start in government contracting, all the way through winning your first contract, which is, by the way, not guaranteed, but we're trying to get you there. So if you're interested, please sign up in the link below, and I will catch you in the next cohort.